Well, welcome back, everybody. And it's my turn in the chair for this particular podcast. And today's subject is something that's really close to my heart. I want to talk about the power of brand, messaging, and also physicality. And also, as well, how are we going to challenge brands? And why is that so important in relation to account-based marketing, lead and demand generation? My name's Graham. I'm one of the directors here at Ice Blue Sky. And with me today, I also have Charlotte and I have Francesca.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, it could be good afternoon or good evening.
It could be anything you want it to
Was it
be.
Clive James used to say that, wasn't it? I can't remember. But yes, I'm the chief exec of Ice Blue Sky.
Hi, I'm Francesca. I'm sort of co-director with Charlotte and Graham.
Yeah, we're the team. We're the team that make up Ice Blue Sky, and a lot of other people behind us as well, which is really good. So today's subject is something that we've found challenging with so many brands that we talk to. And of course, once we have the conversation live around account-based marketing, lead and demand generation, and we understand the nuances and the importance of the particular customer and the value proposition that they've created, our challenge as an agency is how are we going to get those brands noticed? How are they really going to stand out? And I guess some of the things that I've seen is we totally 100% respect that brands have identity and they have existing messaging structures. So we have to pay homage to
And
that.
visual guidelines.
Yeah, and visual guidelines. So we have to pay homage to that and we have to understand that. But does that get noticed in the melee of communication and content that we see in the general marketing marketplace? Are those brands looking...
Well, is it emotional?
Yeah.
I think is the question we often ask, isn't
course
it?
it is.
How can we drive an emotion in somebody?
Yeah, are those brands just looking the same as competing brands?
Yeah.
A wash of blue
Yeah.
and people
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
corporate settings.
Yes, people pointing at graphs in the
Yeah.
sky.
With nice skylines behind them of
Or
buildings.
looking at their watches or
That's right,
sitting
yeah.
in front of a PC and things
Yeah.
like that.
Little post-it notes on the desk.
Yeah, so making brands aware of that in the first instance, I guess to get that perspective, isn't it, is important. Ask that awkward question.
Yeah, and it's challenging, isn't it? Because, and quite rightly, a lot of brands are very protective of their brand guidelines and their positioning. And I think there is a general acceptance that it's okay to get creative at the campaign level. That's often the conversation I end up having is, well, this is a campaign. And also with ABM, you sort of set that context at the beginning. You're only targeting a very specific group of people and companies. So I think sometimes with ABM, you can get a bit more latitude with the campaign because it's not necessarily out there in the public domain. It's going to a few people.
Yeah. And I think as well, I know we're talking about creatives here and being brave with the creatives, but you can also be creative with the modality. Like if I just take enablement as an example in terms of how we train channel partners, using just switching to like interactive video or something or voice activated video, which is something really
all those
new that
AI
we're doing.
avatars we were talking about yesterday.
But it's cut through, whether that's visual cut through, audio cut through, or just I know your favourite subject, Graham, like physicality of cut through. But mixing the modality as well as the imagery and the wording and creating that like emotional connection is where we can really have a difference for sure.
Yeah, and I think also as well when you have that ability to bring those various interactive processes together within a total campaign, it gives context to the whole thing. Whereas I think, traditionally people are quite safe and understandably so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it's part of our job to actually push the envelope just a little bit in what we see. McKinsey, I read an interesting thing from McKinsey, and something that we stand by is that great campaigns are achieved by great design.
Yes.
Yeah. And the way you get to that great design is from the data and the intelligence and understanding. But all of that must be driven with purpose. So what is the end goal? And as you rightfully said, Charlotte, in ABM and lead and demand generation, we've got an audience size. whether that's
Yeah.
one-to-many, one-to-few, or even one-to-one.
Yeah.
And of course, with one-to-one, we can get uber great with creativity. But it's understanding what's the purpose, what's the outcome of the campaign.
Because I think people inherently know it, but they seem to forget it when they come to work. Because in B2B, and I've been in B2B for a very, very long time, and it just got very boring. Didn't And like you said, Francesca, blue wash. Oh my gosh, everywhere. Same stock images. Like, pick a stock image. There was a guy in the mid noughties in imagery, and he had white hair and a white beard, and he was used everywhere. It just became a bit of a running joke. But we, as human beings, we want to have emotional responses to things, and consumer marketing is really good at it. And I don't think B2B should be any different.
No.
But I think sometimes understanding what emotions you want to elicit. So
And
it's
why.
not, and why? Because and comes to your point about purpose.
Yeah.
Because if you think you want to elicit curiosity,
Yeah.
that's, I think, really important in B2B. You don't necessarily want to make people cry. I mean, you can, but I would say in B2B that it's a different set of emotions than in
Yes.
consumer marketing, potentially. But yeah, curiosity, relevance, make it personal to that individual is so important. And I think, some of the examples you've got here.
Yeah, we're going to talk
Graham.
about those a little bit later. I think also as well, what we have to remember in the world of B2B is people are still people at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's
Just because they're in C-suite, that's still a human being. And what we've got, and all the way down into that sort of middle management, that they are gods to us because they hold the budget. We give them this elevated status, as we should, because we have to be respectful of that. But at the end of the day, they're people. They're like us. We're people. And so we respond in certain ways to certain things, as you rightfully said, emotionally. And I guess it's about saying, this is for me. And one of the things that we like to drive, I know we do as an agency, is, right, if a communication is made or a piece of content is created, whether that then goes into an interactive space or something that's a little bit more funky, a little bit more different, or whether we're doing a personalised animation, for instance, within a campaign, we're trying to find that to that person that it's almost like, vroom, it's like tunnel vision, this is for me.
But it's doing it properly, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because was it the ABM conference, wasn't it? One of the speakers was talking about relevancy, but she was saying, because she was an ABM practitioner, and she was saying, but don't look at my profile and know I'm into kittens and then send me lots of pictures of kittens, because she said, yes, it's relevant to me personally, but it's not relevant to me in my job.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why that context is so important, because you can go overboard with the personalisation and the relevancy. You've got to keep the context and, like you say, the purpose in mind, and don't lose sight of the purpose. And it's like when DM was much bigger than it is now, and people used to send little pot plant kits and things like that in the post. That's fine if it's relevant, but don't just do it as a gimmick to get people's attention, because that is not going to get you where you need to go.
No.
It's got to have the right context.
Yeah, and sort of coming on to obviously my favourite subject, which is physicality of things, the humanistic value of physicality. I think we need to understand in the world of what we would call digital first, and we understand why so many campaigns are digital, because it's really cost effective.
It's measurable. It's got a level of certainty about it, which people like.
Absolutely, we can change it up. We can pivot. We can do. We can change how we do things very quickly, as you say, that measurability. But it comes back to that humanistic side as well. And some of these examples that I've got actually on the table here were for a campaign that we did for a customer called Sorted. I don't want to necessarily go into the nuances and talk through the case study, but actually what is on the table here today were things that were actually physically sent to targeted individuals. So we used DM in a very, very strong way, but with a very measured degree of personalization. So individually written post-it notes, for instance. So that comes across as being quite authentic, that somebody could have passed it on. We're using imagery which is relevant to the target audience. We're putting the customer's logos on it. And then inside, I won't play it too much, but actually what we've got here is a personalised animation, a personalised video, and that animation was personalised to the brand, and then visually on the screen it was personalised to the individual as well.
And then the relevancy, the context that we were just talking about, so all of that on its own is great, but what backed it up was some secret shopping online that had been done about the post-purchase delivery experience, and then presenting that in a really creative way back to the client. So we were giving them some insight about their own business, you know, from an external point of view. So that value exchange that you always talk about, Francesca, was there, and it was relevant to their job.
And so it's actionable in terms of the insights.
See, this is why it's called Soapbox, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, the other point I'd make, listen to you both speak, you know, and looking at DM, we're talking about digital marketing, it being awash, you know, these gods, these budget holders we're talking about, right? They're hard to get hold of, but because they're getting lots of people come at them, right, effectively sending them a lot of digital marketing. So is DM, direct marketing, is that like a really good way to cut through as well as the creatives, do you find? Is that, like, going back to that modality point, are you finding that's really effective?
I think so. It has a role to play at a certain point in the funnel, I think. And I think it really, really works well when you've got that really targeted approach. So if you're doing one to few, certainly one to one, I think it has a great role to play, and anybody that's doing one-to-one campaigns, use it because it's really, really powerful.
And we get a lot of questions about deliverability, but this particular campaign, we got 100% deliverability. Sometimes it takes a while, but that's why we handwrite the outer envelopes.
Definitely.
And we make it bulky, because those things have a magical way of finding themselves to people, even if they're not in the office. So we get very high deliverability results. I think the results even. I think the lowest deliverability result we've got is about 85%, which is still pretty good.
But going back to that point you just said, like making it bulky, making it handwritten, it's tapping into the emotion of curiosity again. Well, what's that? Oh, I feel a bit special. What is that? That's something I'm not expecting that.
Well, look at you the other day when you got that. You got an email, didn't you, from reception saying there was a parcel there for you. I mean, it turned out to be not quite as exciting as you thought.
It was just a catalogue.
It was a
But you
catalogue.
were
But I'm
excited.
like, no one sends me post to the office. What could that be?
Exactly.
I think it's an interesting point you make, Francesca.
And sorry, I was just going to say, just on that point, it's about, in there was a catalogue, right, which wasn't of value to me in the nicest possible way, if that person's listening to the podcast, because I can look online for that catalogue. If I need it, I know where to find them, etc. But what you've sent through the post, you've followed through on the promise of it being exciting and intriguing, if I can speak, in terms of there's some insights in there's something actionable, it's very personal, it's got a video with your name, your logo, talking about something that matters to you
so
and your customers.
excitement would continue.
Yeah, exactly. You're not coming off a cliff going, well, that was a lot about nothing, this plant pot to your analogy earlier, you know.
Exactly.
And also as well, when this lands and it's not being opened, somebody say, do you know you've got a package on your desk?
Yeah.
There's something on your desk, it's, you know, quite a sizable item. Do you want me to open it for you, or et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. But I think also as well, using this form of marketing, Charlotte, as you were rightfully saying, you know, we did a personalised report, an industry report around stats, which were really very relevant within the retail market.
Yeah.
And so bringing that relevancy, that personalisation into it was really strong. So using strong visualisation, but also as well, let's go back a bit. And the particular product that we were marketing was a post-delivery platform.
Post-purchase
delivery platform. And so coming up with the title, Hello, is it me you're looking for? So obviously everybody probably understands that came from the Lionel Richie song. But there was that sort of emotional resonance in there as well. So it's as equally important to get sort of a really strong context around that and its relevance to the brand as well. And you're just not being clever for clever's sake.
No. And it pulls it all together, doesn't it? So you've got the relevance of the copy, the bravery of the creatives. I don't know if you've got the dog there with the sunglasses,
no, I haven't got that
etc.
example here,
but you know, you've got that, and you've got the modality,
Yeah.
you've got the personalisation, and all of
Yeah.
it coming together is how you got 98% C-suite
Yeah.
engagement,
It
right?
is.
Thank you.
Which is an unknown.
That was going to be my next point, because everybody's listening to this podcast and saying, oh, okay, this is great what they're talking about, but does it deliver?
Yeah, and it did.
Absolutely.
in a short time.
98% engagement rate, and it drove a £3 million pipe potential?
I don't think we're allowed to share those numbers, so we need to edit that out. But it drove. I think within 6 weeks we had 4 sales forecasted opportunities in the pipeline.
Was it over 50 to 1 in terms of ROI?
Yep. Yeah. And do you know what I loved about this is that Josh, that we worked with on this, he is a really good ABMer. He allowed us to be really good at what we're good at, and he didn't try and hamstring us. We were really blessed with this because and the brand gave us the permission to do this. You know, it was a real collaborative effort. We worked really closely with sales as well, so it was that utopia of sales and marketing working together. Sales did a lot of the research up front on the accounts, which we then took and were able to use to come up with a lot of this. So it was great on so many levels.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and whilst we're just representing this one case study, there are other things that we're seeing. There's one of our clients is an office supply business into various markets, retail, transport, logistics, and things like that. And within their market, it was what I was saying. Everybody looks the same. When you look at the branding, when you look at how the traditional marketing is done from them and also their competition, everything was looking the same. And we asked the brand, we said, can we be braver with your brand? And they allowed us to be that. And again, the results, the outcomes that
They've
we're
really
seeing
spoken for themselves. Yeah.
massive engagement rates. And so it's really great when we put ourselves on the line. Because obviously when we do that sometimes with CMOs, and we say, look, we've got an idea and we want to try this. And it's great, as you say, Charlotte, when people allow us to be the best version of ourselves, it's so great. And the results that we see really balance up with that. And as we get stronger in this world as well, and there are emerging not emerging technologies, I think technologies around virtual reality, around augmented reality,
AI,
AI,
interactivity on the videos and
absolutely.
things. Yeah,
I'm a strong believer that in ABM, leading demand generation, we can create campaigns, what I call that are always on. You've always got the drive to interact with something, and I think that's the next big challenge for all of us. How do we integrate that data?
Yeah.
How do we inspire targets or people that we're trying to get a conversation with? How do we get them interacting with things that they may have that have been sent?
Well, and like you said right at the very beginning, remembering there are human beings there
100%.
in the process, and let's go back to all of our humanity in terms of what makes us tick, what gets us curious, what makes us emotionally engaged with things, and not lose sight of that in the face of the corporate brand. You know, it's about blending the two things together.
But finally, I think what's also important is that the follow through is so relevant as well. We've been talking about that. We've been talking in our earlier podcasts about marketing and sales, or sales and marketing alignment. So it's as important that the follow-up is aligned to the messaging, it's aligned to the campaign, it has that thing coming through. And also as well, the recipient, if they're then going online and they're having those experiences, it follows through. It's not broken, the link's not broken. There's a follow through with the messaging, with what you're trying to do, and I think that's ever so important.
And I think it's not thinking about it, as I keep saying, this is me on my soapbox now, about a relay race, right? It's not marketing handing over to sales, and marketing's not touching it anymore, and sales didn't touch the beginning bit. It's about, okay, we've got this 98% engagement, right? And sales are leading the charge. We're there to support them. We can prepare as a marketing function, can prepare the ground before they go into a sales meeting to help that customer think bigger, wider, identify their needs for themselves, make it seem like less of a sales process and more of an education process, because we have those 27 touch points, and I'd argue it's far higher than that, to be honest. And that's a mix of digital, it's a mix of human, it's a mix across that whole DMU. So let's stop thinking about it as two separate things and think about it together, and how we're going to serve these customers and win.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I could stay on this soapbox for probably the next hour. but
We can verify that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to get off of it now. Francesca, Charlotte, thank you for your input today.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
everybody out there, I hope you've enjoyed that particular session. And you may take some of those ideas and thoughts back into your business as well. So until next time, we'll see you again.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.